then Vandana, if you could also jump in with your thoughts on this one too. But they're wanting to know the potential impacts of the proposed changes on employers and beneficiaries. Do we have Rebekah with us? Might need to toggle that mic back on, Rebekah.
Yes. I mean, it's pretty broad. Impact of what on employers and workers? I'm not sure what the question is referring to exactly. But I will assume that it's referring to the proposed rule to modernize the H-1B requirements, since that was the great majority of my presentation. So in terms of impacts, I think there's a lot that we're still watching. So as I mentioned, we're in a period of notice and comment right now. And so if you do have concerns about anything that I discussed today or in your own reading of the proposed rule, I would encourage you to reach out. There are, DHS does give it a method by which you can contact them to provide your comments. But yeah, we do see some areas of concern that we're keeping our eye on. You might remember from my presentation that in the definition of specialty occupation, DHS says in the proposed rule that if a position requires a degree in a generalized field of study, such as business administration or engineering without a specialization, it would not be considered occupation. That's one thing that I personally am concerned with. Business administration, a lot of people graduate with like an MBA, for example, and they may very well have taken a concentration in finance, and now they're working, they're trying to be hired as a financial analyst. And yet DHS says that it would not be considered a specialty occupation. Or even engineering, someone might have a degree in engineering from India. Sometimes it's not specified, exactly what the engineering degree is in, but they may have taken a lot of courses in computer engineering related to information technology, and they're being hired as a software engineer. But DHS says that would not be considered a specialty occupation. So I'm looking at that part of the proposed rule very carefully, and I would be interested to know if that survives. In terms of impacts of the proposed changes to the CAT process, I think hopefully it would impact mostly those bad actors, as I mentioned, who are trying to game the system. For example, a lot of companies would set up 10 different FEINs, and it's all owned by the same person. And then this group of companies would file 10 registrations on behalf of one beneficiary. And it's basically for that one job that they might have, but they're just trying to give them a leg up and increase their chances of selection. On employers like that, it would most likely impact. They wouldn't have that leg up anymore. And hopefully with the beneficiary-centric registration process, everyone would be on the same plane. So those are some of the impacts that I see.
Thank you so much. Vandana, any thoughts from you before we move on?
Yeah, so in terms of the impact on beneficiaries on the UK immigration side, so as I mentioned, those who are on the student routes, they won't be impacted significantly because particularly for those who are looking to switch into the skilled worker route, they can still start earlier than their course end date, just not significantly earlier. But beneficiaries, like employees, may actually be affected by the fee increases that are ongoing at the moment. So, for example, where employers decide to pass on some of the immigration costs to the employees, that may impact potential employees, or also if employers decide that they're, that they're becoming more reluctant to actually, offer sponsorship because of the increased immigration costs. So beneficiaries could be impacted in that way. In terms of employers, businesses, the change in the UK environment on immigration policies, particularly on the sponsored worker routes, could affect various industries. For example, if the government decides to push up the salary requirements, that could affect a number of industries who pay on the lower scale. So there could be a number of impacts there. And also, if the government are looking to really become more stringent and cut abuse, then we could see a lot more compliance visits and more risk of civil penalties and things like that.